Okay, here we are for another episode of the Danny and Troy show. And right now, we're doing another ad hoc, spur of the moment improvisation video call YouTube episode that
microscopic video episode.
Microscopic, a deep
We're looking
insight.
deep
That's
within
right.
you and me, right?
Exactly. And for this one, yeah, exactly that, to give us a chance actually for us to explain who we are and for our viewers to get a insight into what that perhaps means for them. And yeah, as we develop our story, continue with that recorded and published for everybody to observe. So let me start and give a quick insight to who I am and, what makes me me.
Troy, may I interrupt with just a quick amendment to that?
Sure.
To let everybody know that you and I are talking about the same thing.
Right.
But, the way that we address it is left up to our individuality.
Sure. So on that, you mean like when we're talking about the same thing, we're talking about, I'm taking it to the deepest level that we both human beings, we're both here on planet Earth, and we both have, the gift of life and the aspect of breath right now. So from that level, you and I are the same. And of course, we've had different times of existing in this environment, and we've both experienced different things over time, which has developed us into unique representations of the same thing. Human being, or a spark of life that is bubbled up from the space from which everything comes.
The campfire.
Sure. So for me, I always kind of feel that in some ways, as a person, or as who I am right now, really began when I stumbled across this aspect of data science and the data scientist role. Before then, I was kind of not sure, just stumbling through, exploring different aspects of opportunities, and yeah, unclear about where I wanted to be or what I wanted to do in my life. But when I came across, or actually what happened was, I was informed that I was a data scientist without actually knowing that I was doing this work, which perfectly fit this role. That's a new role that was emerging due to how digitized the world was becoming and how fast technology was evolving. That there's a new space for people that are technologists, that are interested in data management, that are software developers, that are emerging out of computer scientists jobs, emerging out of statisticians jobs, that are emerging out of business analytics and business intelligence jobs, all coming together to make this role the data scientist. And when I found that definition, or just observed what a data scientist does, then I felt that, this is what I want to do, this is what I am doing, and this is what I'm going to continue to pursue to be as the number one data scientist I could possibly be. And from there, things started just, flowing, being easy to, I know what I'm going to do every day. I'm going to work on this. I don't see it as a job. It's not like I well, at some stages, you know, I have worked for others as data scientists, but in essence, it's just a practice, just like you would practice a musical instrument, just like you may practice learning a new language, just like you may practice martial arts, or, you know, some aspect of what normally people would consider hobby or external to what their job is. This is my practice, and I practice data science every single day, and every opportunity I have to do that, I yeah, pick it up and I continue. So luckily, I guess, or, you know, just by fate or destiny or whatever right word we want to put on it, I found that quite early in the realm of data science evolving as a known role and a service. And because I was actually the owner of datascientist.com, when I discovered this role, I looked at, okay, I'm going to make this my future. I'm going to buy datascientist.com. Nobody owned it. Nobody had datascientist.net. And I also got datascientist.org. So, and with my background, built small, with my background experience, I could quickly build a small website and advertise data science or data scientists as this role that I saw, and as I was working in it. And from that, I built up a number of social media hooks, I guess, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and they had their associated groups. And the one that's really picked off is the LinkedIn group, which, yeah, as that was developing, people were coming to the group and saying, oh, data science and data scientists, what is that? So as me promoting it, I not only just, you know, told them what I was doing, but I was doing a lot of research about what it means to be a data science, and not just research of what others were thinking. I was doing deep inside work about, okay, what does it mean for me to be a data scientist? So I came up with a model, came up with some components, some aspects, some levels that helped me understand the aspects of what it means to be a data scientist. And I promoted that and I published that just through my videos and through my articles that I wrote. And I got a lot of, you know, feedback and followers, and people just, you know, ran with that. And I believe because I was out there promoting data science quite early, had an impact and an influence on the direction of what data science is today. So from that, being considered a pioneer data scientist, and have been, you know, asked to speak at major events, been flown halfway around the world to attend governmental forums and aspects of yeah, speaking on topics like big data. And in the whole time, just been working as a data scientist. My main experience is coming from epidemiology and cancer research. And that's where I, you know, feel that I just can practice being a data scientist. And yeah, now we have over 173,000 members on LinkedIn, and still people are coming and saying, you know, I want to be a data scientist. Can you help me become a data scientist? And that is also building up a pool of highly enthusiastic and experienced data scientists that I now have access to and can communicate with, and at some stage, you know, have been talking with and interviewing and bringing on aspects of further developments of what data science is and what the data scientist role does today. So yeah, I hope that is a good introduction of myself and what I am about and what I am doing.
Best yet. I think you've done the best job I've ever heard you do in introducing yourself.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, let's segue now, if you don't mind, into what we're doing presently
Sure.
to define our mutual efforts.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, it's something that we were going to discuss today anyway. Let's
Exactly.
let people in on, because you have a chance to add something you may not have decided to put into writing yet, which is incidental, I think. But yet at the same time, it's a perfect opportunity for you to just sail into the what opportunities, I was going to say problems and things like that, but what you're faced with and how you plan to deal with presenting data science to the public.
Yeah. So
If you don't mind.
I mean, I think data science is very much a team sport, if we can use that same word. But so being a data scientist by yourself is quite boring. But sitting next to somebody else that has, a same drive or a passion or a purpose, and letting them utilize the skills of a data scientist, or just being that facilitating person to technology, data, and analytics that comes with it, is what really makes data science projects, go well. And, back in 2015, Danny and I crossed paths. So as a data scientist, I really felt like this is, a combination that I am exploring into and looking to, okay, how can I bring my data science skills to Danny Teal, who, not to talk about nor over mark my introduction of you, because I know you're going to talk about who you are and what you're doing soon. But I just found if there was anyone in the world that I could work with or work for or sit together and collaborate with, this is a guy that I just want to explore and be a service to. And yeah, that's why we've started. I mean, it's taken some time, but just kept our relationship going and communicating, and now building up real, identifiable milestones that we have achieved, such as creating the company in Australia, Datalogical Services, building the website, building the frameworks in introduction aspects. And we're continuing to do that in terms of identifying the service that our collaboration provides and can support not just us in what we're looking to do. So like I said, purpose is really just to practice data science, and I'll continue to do that. And but if I can do it in this fun, exciting new realm of meeting people such as, with the personality and experience such as people like you, Danny, then that's what continues to make my existence more enjoyable, more entertaining, more fulfilling, and also creative. I get kind of, I want this to be a creative experience, and doing the stuff I've done, after a while you get to know it. So to venture out into a new arena and apply this creative skills is what really and that's where we are today. That's what we're doing right now.
Troy, you're one of the best people I know at following your intuition, or that's my impression anyway, right? So you see something, you run your calculator, and your calculator says this is what we're going to do. So you've like, whether you've turned data science into a mental process, or you've turned a mental process into data science, that collaborative effort of keeping your, I guess I can say, sensual self right? Open and available to all of the stimuli that's coming in around you,
Mhm.
right? Being able to incorporate that into a variety of different applications, right? Which I could say would be like in dealing with people or in dealing with customers or whatever, right? And
Sure.
in this document that we were looking at, you have 10 points about how, I think, about how you envelop these strategic approaches, which I love strategy, right?
Mhm.
And analysis, so I'm on it in my own way. Would you mind just going through that briefly for everybody's benefit, mine included,
Yeah.
and talk a little bit about why you chose them, why the order, and how
Sure.
that you feel that they affect what you're doing
Mhm.
with your
Mhm.
life and your business, which is the same, I think.
Sure. That's right. So yeah, this evolved as Danny and I building up a I don't know,
Second
descriptive.
website.
Yeah, we're going to be upgrading a current website with a clear and concise and simple definition of what we do as Datalogical Services. And I've gone and just let things flow, and we've written some words, and Danny's done the same, and we've kind of merged them together and saying, okay, what do we got? And also from our past meetings, I've been looking at all the words we've been talking about, the things that we've been saying about what it is we want to do, and just letting that kind of be absorbed by my consciousness as I'm reading it. And every now and then a word pops out, or a couple of words, and I'm thinking, okay, this is the essence of that sentence. And then I make that into a list. I put that on the list. And yeah, I do some ordering, and you mentioned that the ordering does come where I think, okay, it's too early to talk about this, so it goes down. And yeah, I've left one particular topic at number 10, which I think encompasses all. I want to get to a point where that the things we talk about second kind of is added to the things we talk about first, from that sequence of 1 to 10. So yeah, my list, and why I developed that list was to get more clarity, because I want to know, I have a definition, but I want to share that definition or collaborate with you, Danny, about your definition, so that we can be on the same page when we get to the point that someone else comes and says, hey, what do you guys do? Then you're telling the same thing as me. And yeah, in the first instance, it's for us to agree, or just to acknowledge that, yes, that's what we're talking about. So I'll go through the list right now.
Sure.
And just briefly, yeah, talk about each one.
Sure. I'm looking forward to it.
So yeah, the number one is 3 words, which is an advisory firm. Now that is come up because in terms of a definition of the company, I think that one is one that has, resonates well. It's not a, we don't have a product exactly. We don't, yeah, have this thing on the shelf that you just go and buy, but what we're actually selling is advice. And firm is, as I looked it up, I mean, just to get a clear definition of what the world thinks firm is just the collaboration of 2 or more people. And that's why that really stood out to me as, yeah, first of all, advisory firm. Is that,
can I comment on that?
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
a couple of comments, because I have that same bubble coming up
Sure.
inside of me, right?
Sure.
And I'd like to look at this in somewhat theatrical terms,
Yeah.
because, if you're talking, let's talk about a film, which is a project, right? But before you do a film, you go through a pre-production process, right?
Great.
And that
Yeah.
pre-production, you may go to a director who is not working on a job at the moment, which doesn't mean he's dead, right? He continues to develop himself every day, at least the people I know, right? You're in the job. It's not 5 days a week, 9 to 5. It's 24/7.
Sure.
You think about it, you are it. And when you find a way in which to apply those talents, let's say to a film, then you go into what I call pre-production, right? That means who would be good for this, who would be good for that. How do I see the vision unfolding? What kind of crew do I need? What kind of money do I think is possible? Who's able to manage all of these little details, right? Do I have a script, etc.? All these little things that I think most people, and yourself especially, can well imagine. So, when you're saying advisory, I think I see it just a little different in that, there's so many people out there, even people who have jobs, whose talents are not being utilized. They're not being exploited, right? Not a bad word, to the fullest extent of what they have to offer. And that's called waste. Right. And if you give people the opportunity to make a contribution, instead of saying, you're supposed to be working on this one today, well, maybe they are, but in a different way. And I'll prove that in just a minute with my own, when we get to me. There are many different approaches to things.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want people to have a bad impression of an advisory committee, or an advisory firm, because I think we are all advisors when asked for our advice, right?
Sure.
Or our participation. I think you could say a participation firm at the same time, right?
Right.
But we're all sitting there waiting for the perfect moment, or waiting for an opportunity, to become involved and to utilize our best talents. And that's more or less how I see my side of what you're talking about in terms of defining the company, right? Yes, we do advise. Sometimes it's for free, but if you really get into the meat of the matter, we're not talking about, free service. Of course, we're more than happy to. We're kind of like a therapist on call, right? Anytime you have a problem, you can give me a call. Everybody says that, right? Here's my private number. You can call me anytime. And they may let you go through 3 or 4 different lines about what your problem is. And then they say, I think we should set an appointment to get together and talk about this, right? So maybe we have the same approach. Right?
Yeah. So I think on the flip side of that is like, who are we advising? And like, I'm not sure if it matters, because we can provide this service, like whether it's advisory or another term we use, support, or so
the project, we're project managers, really.
Right.
When people come to us, they come to us because there are things they want that they cannot do themselves, or that they want some objective point of view on. And that way we can assist, because we've been there before. We got the t-shirt, right? As the saying goes. And so we can say, we analyze the situation. What are your dreams? What do you have available to you? What do you need? And we ask ourselves whether or not we can supply what they need. Right?
But yeah, I think that leads into the number 2, which which I've written down as specialists in creative services.
There you go.
What we want to do as advisors, or as communicators or collaborators with these people, is what we specialize in is creative services. And again, creative services, you know, can do with some extra definitions, I think, in terms of defining what that means. But for me, you know, and what I've seen you do, Danny, is like from, you know, logo design to, you know, full-on business strategy, to, yeah, image and storytelling around a full project, and then, yeah, getting in the deep clarity of the technologies and how it works. So this creative services can range from what I guess people would consider very, I guess, low-key work, or easy, just to say, okay, not that I'm downplaying creating a logo, but anything from logo design to sophisticated, you know, methods of artificial intelligence that's used behind the technology, including, you know, blockchain and cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. You bring up a very important point, Troy. And that point is, you know, when we first met, it was like a dream come true for me. Because, you know, I'm in the habit of finding people who can do what I cannot do.
Right.
And I was telling myself, this was 2015, that at this happiness conference in Bhutan, of all places, you know, here we are in the mountains. And I thought, the way the world is going, it's going digital. It's going to, you know, smartphones, going to computers, everything. You know, I am remiss to find a day in my life when I don't bump into somebody who is giving all of their attention to a screen, right, which they hold in front of their face, or they're texting, you know, and it's like, yeah, I guess there's some evidence that they're there, but really they're somewhere else. So all of their attention is being given to a cyberspace, you know, a place that really does not exist except in our imagination. And how do I continue to do what I'm doing when the medium has changed? Medium is the message. Right. And it's like, well, I sure would like to meet somebody who can do that. And bing, bada bing, there comes Troy, you know, like dropping right out of the sky. And it was like, I think, let's see if we can work together, you know, and how we talk, how we refer to each other, what kind of symbols, in what creative spirit, and that communication for Troy is a great, well, it's not the correct word, but you're an interpreter, right? You interpret things that used to be done sufficiently with a typewriter, or, you know, sending a letter or a telephone call or something like that. And your methodology is more like, well, why a telephone call when you're talking to one person when we can address the entire world at the same time, if they're awake, right, and online. And it was like, wow, the possibilities of finding someone who is adept at doing that, who can, and the other thing about you that I really like is your ability not only to translate words into numbers, right? You're talking binary code and all that sort of stuff, which I don't really understand, but I knew that I could talk to you about something and you could offer a number of different ways in which that information can be translated into a field in which everybody can access quite easily. Right. Yeah. And it was like, thank you, Jesus. You know, here he is. Name's Troy. Okay, let's talk. You know, we go from there. That's so right. I just wanted to say that to help people understand everything you're not saying from, you know, from another perspective that really does show that I consider what you do and how you do it and how friendly you are and how you take time, you know, and so on and so on, all the other features we'll talk about later, is really a godsend. And I want everybody to know that, because they're
Right.
going to have confidence in somebody if they're going to go down this road who
Mm.
can do everything that they can't do and explain to them why it's necessary and how he's going to do it.
Mhm.
And that's you.
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, it's basically the data science. I mean, I don't, and it's still looking to find that clear-cut definition of data science. But what you're talking about there is the process of data science, is collecting information and how you collect that, or in some ways promote that. It is, using latest technology. Like you say, we can use a typewriter or computer or telephone or this Zoom call, coupled with social media platforms such as YouTube. So I'm bringing all this, which is, it's not new, it's been around, but still it remains in some cases inaccessible or hard to get to, or a little bit daunting about, how do I actually create a YouTube channel? And so that is the job of the data scientist, to ensure that the latest technology doesn't need to be brand new straight off, the researchers and frontline development of latest technology, but just anything that's can help, that is in existence. And that's the facilitating aspect, is okay, yeah, people don't, like you, Danny, don't need to worry about that. I got that covered. And that's what I love doing. And then, yeah, letting that information out. And that's another aspect of data science where, it's no point. I mean, this is what happened for a very long time in the research community, that people would do all this research, they'd make a little floppy disk, or in my case, it was like a CD, put all the data on that CD, and then go, yeah, we've got it. Then they put it in their drawer, and then they retire, and then that's it. But all this data, all this information is inside a drawer, inside an office, inside a university, and it's really hard to get to. But now, because of data science, I believe things are changing in that sense. Yeah, we're getting things accessible, and that's a big part of playing the data scientist role, is ensuring that the right people can get access, at first know about it, secondly get access to it, and then beyond that is, okay, making further insights and utilizing that now that you've got access. So, but yeah, going back to the number 2 about creative services, this is what, really draws me to you, is your creative, I guess, angle to everything. It's like, okay, let's not just go down that same path that everybody has gone before. Let's think outside the box. Let's, bring in this aspects of deep rooted fundamentals of why we're here, and fulfillment and purpose and motivation. And that really is what I see when we talk about creative services. It's about finding these tools that are available, but it's also really, don't forget about being creative about it.
Right. We're taking the job out of the job.
Exactly. It's like,
right?
We don't want it to be considered a job. It's just, I mean, that's another thing that people feel when you talk about creative aspects. You go, oh, I'll be creative when I sign off at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. today, and I'm gonna maybe paint a picture or do something creative.
Have a drink.
And talk about your aspirations and dreams with your buddies around the bar, but you don't have to leave it until you knock off from work for the day. Let's bring it into what our daily practices are, our jobs. And that's what I think when we say we're specialists in creative services, we're talking about.
It's not even a job for us, in a broader sense, it's a career, right? Well, because job always implies to me that I'm, I don't know, wage slave I think
Sure.
the term is, right? Or
Yeah.
that you have to do what somebody else is telling you to do. But
Mhm,
even if I hire a carpenter to work around here, I don't tell him how to do his work,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
He would walk off the job if I kept, telling him, hey, don't you think you should hammer the head of that nail first so the wood won't split? And it's like, you know, why did you hire me? Because either I know that already or I have something different. But anyway, I'm going to finish the job. I'm going to do it my way, principally, and you're going to be happy with it. Of
Mhm,
course,
mhm.
if I see something grotesque happening, I'll just tell him, stop or whatever. I'll manage that myself or find somebody else. But that's why I look for specialists,
Mhm, mhm.
right?
That's
People
right.
who are experts at
Yeah,
doing what they do.
that's right.
The whole apprentice, journeyman, master routine, right?
Mhm,
If you're
mhm.
at my house, we can pretty much expect that you're a master, unless you've succeeded in I don't know, deceiving me or fooling me or flim-flamming me into believing that you can do something that you can't do. And if the money's in your pocket, then, you can just leave the job. That's
Mhm,
why people
mhm.
get paid, have worked for me, get paid on Friday at 5 o'clock. It's like,
Sure.
if I gave it to them, paid them at 1 o'clock, I wouldn't see them again until Monday. It's like,
Mhm,
no, we're not going
mhm,
to do that.
mhm,
Let's
mhm.
just finish the job, right? And then tweak it if we need to. But you're right. There are so many different approaches to trying to keep people interested in what they're doing
Well,
and making an addition.
that's right.
Absolutely. You know, it's hard.
So, yeah, but that kind of leads to the next actually 4 points. So that was number one, advisory firm, two, specialists in creative services, three, four, five, and six
Mhm.
points all describing what we are or what we do. And I'll just go through them. Three is deal
Sure.
makers.
Hmm.
Deal makers is three. Four is problem solvers.
Right.
Five is integral thinkers. And six
Hmm.
is change managers. So these are I see, ideally in the future we'll have a department. Well, these are the deal makers. Not that they're clear cut. It's and stepping over one line and the other's not possible. There's
Hmm.
great,
Hmm.
or it's more of a spectrum of colors going from
Beautiful.
each one, and there's overlap, right? But
Yeah. Clones of us, right?
well, I right now we're just two people, and we are taking on all those roles. I mean, you're obviously
Mm.
more in the space of deal maker than I am with your network of connections and the way you
Mhm.
talk and your charisma, as we were talking about before. And the problem solver on the analytical side, I'm really into that, and have that abstract kind of point of view where I can see, okay, what is the underlying issue? Not that, so not that you couldn't do the same problem solving, you're doing that all the time, but on the technology and the
Oh,
data
sure.
management side,
Absolutely.
I can see I'm the problem solver. Then the integral thinker is, I think the combination of what we bring together in that, if when we are together, okay, what's the deal that needs to be made here? Or actually, what's the problem that we're trying to solve, or the underlying problem? How do we bring it all in to some sort of integral system?
Sure.
And then once we have that as a plan, okay, how are we going to change it? That's the number six, change management. So how are we going to
Mhm.
induce a change that makes sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
If- I would actually interchange, speaking of uh, change management with integral thinking.
Hmm.
Because for me, if you put integral thinking
Oh yeah.
as the last point in this list, right?
Sure.
This
Sure.
subdivision, then really what that says to me is if you're going to be building a motor,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
There's a perfect example of integral objectivity, right?
Right.
Everything, valves, distributors, fuel systems, whatever, the whole thing, just look under the hood of your car.
Mhm.
And that is a result of integral thinking. When you've got a piston that's doing this, when does the valve open and shut, right?
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
another thing. So that's a perfect example of integral thinking. If somebody wants, they could come to us and say, well, we've got this wagon and we need to propel it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. That's right.
Self-propelled.
That's
My
right.
horse just died. How
Mhm.
am I going to do that? And so we'll start asking some questions, which, we were dealing with here.
Yeah.
What's it worth to you? Why do you want to do it? How is it going to service you? How are you going to service it? Is it
Mhm.
on the water, land,
Mhm.
or in the
Mhm.
air? So
Mhm.
we begin by narrowing down all of the different aspects
Mhm. Mhm.
of what we think might work, which would lead us either to buy another horse, right? You should have had a mule instead of a horse in the first place. Or have you considered downsizing and using a donkey? How about a bicycle, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Or we may get to, depending on the resources available to us, internal combustion engine,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Or electric. I shouldn't even be talking about internal combustion, right?
Sure.
Combustion. But okay, if it's an electric motor, then we don't need pistons and all that sort of stuff. But we still need gears. And if we're dealing with electricity, we're dealing with, I presume an AC motor. I don't know, whatever. They
Mhm.
ask Mr. Tesla that.
Mhm.
But
Mhm. Well.
that's the process of our investigation. We come to understand the parameters not only of what the requisition is, right?
Mhm.
If it's
Mhm.
left wide open, then it's going to take longer and a lot more interaction and more contract, right? Because we don't want to give you an idea that you can think you're going to run with and then disappear. I've had that happen to me many times from San Francisco to New York, right? I walk in the door and they say, can you solve this problem? I say, yeah, it's pretty easy. Here, all you have to do. And then they say, thank you very much. We'll give you a call, which they never give, right?
Mhm.
And then they
Mhm.
try to do it themselves and end up flat on their face,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So that is part of our integral thinking as well, right?
Sure.
It's
Sure.
like, okay, long-term customer, short-term customer, payment methodology. Do you need money? We can help that with that. If your idea is worth what you think it's going to take to develop it, or we can distribute it and so on and so on. So while all of this is happening, we're kind of like, a conductor. He's got
Oh,
the string section, percussion, string, whatever it is, right?
yeah.
Wind. And it's like he has to make sure it all works together. I mean,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
I think, even though he doesn't look like he's doing a hell of a lot other than waving a wand around,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
going like
Mhm.
this to people,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it ends up being a symphony, you know? It
Yeah.
ends up something where everybody that's there is working together.
Well, that perfectly, yeah, segues into actually the next 3 points, which are number 7 is convincing narrative.
Mm,
Number 8 is the flow of information. And number
got it.
9 is branding and cultural analysis mapping. So when I first wrote them down, I thought, okay, these are different things that we want to talk about. What you just described there is, well, first of all, flow of information.
Mm,
You don't want that to flow out in a certain, gush, or in a way like a tsunami that just takes them away, and then they're running off and on their, or yeah, getting out their
depending
surfboards.
on who they are, right?
Sure. So controlling that flow of information is important, so that they can uh, get to the point where they see, it's valuable to continue this flow, or to get the next piece, to get, okay, not give everything away too early, but this is a
Hmm.
taste, and we can allow that flow of information. And
Sure.
that's just one, I guess, context of flow information. That flow of
Absolutely.
information can occur in multiple parts. And going back up one, which is the convincing narrative, to have that, okay, this is the problem, or this is the people you need to talk to, whether it's, okay, yeah, I've got a cart and I need to move it, that's their problem, okay, and they come to us, and Danny's like, yeah, I know the perfect guy that, well, after we do that integral thinking about, okay, what was the real issue here? Like you said, do they want to go from one place of one country to another and cross over oceans, or are they just going to the next town? And depending on that, Danny knows, oh, I know the perfect guy that you need to talk to. This is
Sure.
who we got to get in touch. If it's, going from one country to another, it's, some guy in planes and or submarines to get us through the water. And then, yeah,
Right.
if it's just to the next town, actually, we know how to talk to them. Actually, they're coming to this town anyway on a regular basis, so you don't even need your cart. So, and
Right.
making that deal solves the problem in an integral way. And then, we help them manage that change using latest technology and data approaches, and building that into that convincing narrative that everybody clear and understand this is why we want to do it. Flow the information in at the right time, at the right speed, and to the right people. And
Yep.
at the same time, branding and cultural analysis mapping. This is, to ensure that everybody's comfortable. But in the first word, branding, people can see, okay, this is, something that whether you're
It's your reputation.
That's right, you're inside it, this is me. So I want everybody to understand. And, a big part of who that is, or the company or the individual, will be driven by their culture, and ensuring that that's not lost.
Absolutely.
What we're
That's a
talking
very
about.
salient point.
Exactly, about, and that's why it's important to map it. And while they're on a
Yeah,
roll, yeah,
I want to just,
Go.
if I don't interrupt you,
Sure.
which I do anyway, your comments about narrative and flow.
Yeah.
I think it's important to bring up a point that it's like storytelling in a way, right? If you're a narrative has the flow. I mean, if you're not going to listen to somebody you don't understand, like I can't understand Elon Musk when he's talking. I have to ask somebody else, what's he talking about?
Sure.
But it doesn't mean he's not happy and successful and whatever, all those points that people use to, set him as an example of success or whatever.
Mhm.
But in a narrative outside of Elon, in a narrative, we're telling people about something, or they're telling us about something. And it's become quite easy for me to recognize in certain instances that people go through this narrative to reach a conclusion. And then that conclusion is at, let's say, the last line. But when you're considering whether somebody else is going to be reading it, for instance, right? I don't think we've gotten past, reading or listening. That's the last line is probably what they want to hear first.
Sure.
Right. And if you can, it's not an exact replica of tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. But it has very strong implications. If you take that conclusion and take it to the front, then you can explain to people or point out to people. I don't like explanations unless they're necessary, but you can point out to people the process of reaching that conclusion, as opposed to pointing out the process first without coming to the conclusion. It's not like a climax or something. It's like, I don't know, when you anticlimactic. Sure. That's what it is.
Sure.
So, and that means to gauge the flow of information, the narrative, in a way which can be friendly. Or have you started it with, "Dear sir, I would like to inform you." There are a number of different ways you can say that, depending on who you're addressing, who their client is. And those are things they may not have thought of. which ease the delivery and reception of that information that you're giving to them, which
Yeah.
is the process of turning ignorance into bias, right?
Sure.
Now they're on our side. Great, let's go. Let's keep moving.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
those kinds of little things that we're giving away for free on this video is a way of saying, we've been there before and we have some suggestions that might help you you have to keep your objectivity as much as you possibly can in determining whether what we do for you is effective, working, you're getting your money's worth and all this sort of stuff,
Mhm, mhm.
so that we can say, well, from our level, whatever level that is, we think that this is a good approach. And if they
Mhm,
agree,
mhm.
okay, sign the check, we'll release the information and we go on from there, but we don't stop, because
Sure.
we stay involved. This is why we like, long-term customers and long-term relationships, to figure out if they're working, if they're not working. Hell, you got to bring your car in for service sometime, right?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
It's not accelerating the way it should. Well, I see why. So we go and we fix that little item and you're back on the road,
Mhm.
for instance.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm nervous now whether this is the right time to bring out number 10, which is our kind of the climax of the thing, whether we should have brought it up in the first place before we, but yeah,
Uh-oh.
the flow of
I
information.
mind the harbor, huh? Okay, give it a shot.
Is that we've come to number 10, which is the business play. So the
Cool.
business play is our delivery method. It's it's based off a business plan, but it's a new approach to business strategy development that
Mhm.
involves
Mhm.
this creative aspect. It involves
Absolutely.
identifying the players or the actors involved. It requires analysis of the relationships, the story that's to be told, and presents it in this light-hearted, open,
Entertaining.
transparent and entertaining way that people can really, we plan that will be engaging, when people can engage in that. And
Well put, Troy. It's I wrote down earlier while you were talking, scripting,
sure.
because and I won't press my presentation today because I think we're over an hour already. So I'll save that one for the next one, right? To give me a chance to tweak it a little bit more about my approach. But
Okay.
Still, from a cinematic point of view, if the whole time we're listening to this, or whether we are researching or listening or whatever, there is, I believe, I think you may agree, but you're open to say whether you do or not, that you have to, how do I say this? Well, you've got to set it up and lay it out,
Exactly.
right? That's
Yeah.
kind of like local terminology, but
Sure.
when you do that, when you lay it out, the way that I, for one, do it is by, and it's, I don't want to say it comes to me, but we talked yesterday, we talked about lots of different things about, using our logo, right? And how can, if we're aiming for a, website 2.0,
Mhm.
Do we edit what we have already, which is, just principally a short story of how we view things. This is a little more in depth. We started talking about, well, I got things here, the logo, right? Which is an octopus.
Yeah.
And then from that, we had the Kraken pop up,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I'm just reading from my notes. And if we're talking about blue oceans, another point, right? Then we get into things like, what are the components of this visual, right? Words create pictures, right, in a person's mind, and then there's flow and protagonist, antagonist, all this sort of stuff to introduce problems and problem solving in a narrative, in a story,
Exactly.
which is what I call scripting. to what you were talking about, in a way in which we can tell a story about you, about us, about a number of different subjects. And I've done this and enjoy it immensely, storytelling with people.
Exactly.
I've done it my whole life, and I guess we're trying to take advantage of that now, of where we were, if we're talking about blue oceans and octopus, then we get ideas about, how do we do that? How do we build a storyline around it?
Exactly.
And who are the characters, and
Yeah.
how does our logo fit intrinsically within the development of first stage development, for discussion purposes only, as to where that's going to lead us, and is the construct of the story amenable to the business needs, right? And it may be a bit abstract. Yeah, I think it is something new, and it's not. Because, I look at every day. I look at stuff online, and I think, how boring! I can't stand it. That's why I don't like LinkedIn so much, because it's like, look what I did. Here's a picture of me next to the sheik, or here I am here. Like, here's what I like, and it's like, so what? You're trying to tell me something, and I can't hear you, right? So our approach, really, it seems like, with this number 2 thing, and we've done it before in building up the business play, which we used once before when I took principally notes from a conversation I had with someone. You remember this guy and this girl in Brazil, right? Wanted to do some kind of collaborative effort together, and I principally took the conversation I had with him and wrote 5 or 6 pages of dialogue between me as a character. This is not transcription, right? We're not doing this a word for word thing.
Yeah.
There's an analytical process that goes on in order to prove a point,
Sure.
which the client did not get. Hey, can't win them all, right? So it was at the point where that started developing as part of the process of saying that a business play could just be a way of reading it back to you.
Exactly.
With comment, right?
Sure.
Included, in a way in which you might get the message, but if you're open-minded. If you're not open-minded, you're looking for, I don't know, a guy who makes test tubes. Well, then go to the guy that makes test tubes, right? And he'll help you.
That's right.
And I won't charge you for the advice, but the advice is Google it, right?
Sure.
And then whatever happens, and best of luck to you.
Exactly.
So, not to create any bad feelings or anything, but it has to somehow or another catch. There's always a hook, right? And this guy, I think, was principally looking for something for nothing. And then when I asked him for, tell me more about this, it became, well, with you as an investor, and it's like, not until we do an audit of your business. And then it was like, he rubs out his interaction with us like it never happened. It's like, okay, all right, well, it was a good idea. We could have done a number of different things with what you were doing, but it was like, that's the bugbear, is that when you get people who do something well, but who don't know how to communicate with other people like us in this particular instance, you need an intermediary. And, we can be your emissary. We can present you to other people of maybe a more engaging and larger aspect, which is part of what we do as well. But it has to be beautiful.
Yeah.
If it's not beautiful, we're not going to do it.
Sure.
Because, the person, let's say it's somebody in the Middle East, and, if we're not excited about it, I'm not going to be able to excite them about it.
Exactly.
Right. And if I can't excite them about it, what was all the purpose? What was the purpose of all that?
That's right.
To waste time? No, because we are object oriented, right? We go for the prize, and we'll take you there. And if anybody can, we have a great deal of confidence in ourselves. A short outline you can look at previous points in the video. which gives us an idea that we're better than anybody else, or we wouldn't be doing this. You know, with us, there is no competition because we're the
that's right.
best.
Well,
And then it's just, if you like what we do, we're more than happy to work together.
yeah,
And if not, you know, and we can help you in some other way, like, you know, don't let the door hit you on the way out, that kind of stuff. We can do that too.
Yeah. I think what makes us, I mean, even more stand out as the best is our uniqueness, that the thing that we're providing, the offering that we're doing. And yes, we are spending time describing it and getting the details because it is new. It's a new concept, and it's, but it's something that is familiar to a lot of people, but to bring it in this aspect of a business play is a new concept that we're, I believe, the only ones doing it right now, but can bring in those benefits of creativity, enjoyment, fun, fulfillment, and objectivity, achievement, success, goal being realized, creating and manifesting futures. This is what we're talking about. And
Absolutely. You know, it's like if you hurt your leg and you wonder whether or not you broke a bone, it's that serious. You can try walking on it. I'll give you a mirror and you can look at it. We can take you to the imaging department of the local hospital, and they can do an X-ray. They can do a sonogram. They can do a CT scan. They can do an MRI with or without contrast, right? They can feel, I mean, there are a number of different approaches. If you want to know whether your leg is broken, where it's broken, and how they're going to fix it, you know, some of the more advanced technology that you know nothing about, but, you know, they do, might give you the answer, cut the healing process short. And, you know, and they can use your insurance, right? But it's that way. It's like how, if you're asking a professional doctor, right, an osteopath or not a chiropractor, I'm nothing about chiropractors, or those kinds of people, right? They're going to want to know, because when they cut your skin, if they do, or punch a hole in you one way or the other, you know, that's serious. And we want as little of that as possible, right? And then that means, of course, that as a result of this injury, you still have to find a way back into your life, right? If we've got to put pins in your leg, elevate it, you know, and then put you in traction and everything, it's going to be a while. So these comparisons really are depending on what your insurance will pay for, your willingness to have the procedure done. Because you can walk around, so, you know, like a lot of people do in the farming community. It's like, oh, I broke my leg about 10 years ago. Never went to see a doctor. You know, it's like, really? I couldn't tell. All right. Good enough. Thank you very much. So are we at a point where we can take a pause?
I think so. I think, there's a lot of good information.
That's 10 good points, Troy.
And
thank you very much. I'm going to send you via Skype, right, my script.
Great.
Just for you to have a look at. And then tomorrow we'll do another presentation and
sounds good.
See if how people respond to it.
Wonderful.
We do?
Sounds good. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I wish you a good morning there in Brisbane, and I'll chat with you tomorrow. Okay.
Good evening there in North Carolina.
That's right.
And
here I am in the sticks. Won't be here forever though. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.